2022 Australian Indoor Nationals are over. It's finished, done. It was shot all around Australia in all different venues. So each state held it in various venues. I shot in Goolwa, South Australia, and I just want to talk about the experience of shooting in a Nationals and how people feel about shooting in Nationals and what I sort of take from the event. So to start off with, there was probably about 40 people shooting in the venue I shot at. It was over 2 days in 2 sessions. So morning session, afternoon session. I shot in both sessions, so in 2 categories I shot in. I shot recurve open and over 50 recurve. So the first thing I'm going to talk about is people's expectations. So a lot of people have worked very hard to attend the Nationals and have high expectations. So they expect to shoot like they shoot in their practice scenarios, and they have that expectation. They've worked really hard. So when they come to that day, they get one chance at it. So the pressure they put on themselves is extremely high. As a result, you'll find lots of disappointed people. That's the first thing. So we're going to talk about this. So what I noticed in the venue, there was a lot of people shot at the wrong target, which is really crushing for them. So next to me was Michael, one of the best shooters in this state. He shoots 300 out of 300 indoors, 299s. Very, very good shooter. He will win the over 50s compound shooter, and he's one of the best open shooters in the state. On the first day, he shot the wrong target with one arrow. It was a nice 10 in that target. Now, this is not abnormal. You'll see it happen a bit, but I just saw Michael standing next to me. He looked crushed. And you feel for Michael because it's like you build up, you put so much work in, and it's not that it's the end of his life or anything like that. It's not there's prize money. It's just like he wanted to go there and do really well and to do it in pressure and do it in the moment where it counts. And at the end of the day, Michael shoots extremely well and his score was still very, very good. But as soon as you miss 10 points, that's pretty much the end of the Nationals for Michael. And he knew it and he looked really, really down. Now that occurred down the shooting line as well. There was many people who missed the target or shot the wrong target or had some issues. So it's literally crushing for them. So from my own shop, one of the archers missed the target. And you could see he had very high expectations. And you could just see that he was crushed. He looked crushed, and it was like, well, what's the point of continuing at this point? Now, there are archers who will go home. So if they shoot a 9, they go, well, this is it, let's go home. Off they go. So it says something about their character if they continue, and what they do is try and shoot good arrows from there on. So when it comes to the shooter from my store, Joel, who missed, and he sent me a message on Saturday night halfway through the shoot and said, look, I'm out of it. My scores are so bad, I can't win, and, good luck with the competition tomorrow, kind of message. Joel came back to come second in men's recurve in the state. So that's how bad he felt from missing the target. And it's not like Joel's scores were poor, although he felt they were poor, because they were higher than he shot last year. And even his scores were still very high for the scores shot last year at the state level. But they were significantly lower than he's been practicing lately. And he'd been working his little butt off for it. So on my target, I shot with Ryan from my store, who'd been shooting very high bare bow recurve scores, similar or exceeding the recurve sighted shooters very high expectations, like very high expectations, and was shooting amazing, like groups like this. Like they were like 3 arrows touching each other in the 8-9 ring on the left-hand side of the target. And I'm like, just aim across a little bit. Like the grip was like that for the entire day in the 8 or 9. If it had been in the 10, it'd be an Australian record. And it's just like he just feels a bit crushed from it. One of the girls on my target, like her scores were down. She shot 2 arrows on the wrong target. And the other girl on my target, like she'd been shooting 260s for recurve. She shot about a little bit over 200s, 230s, if I'm going to memorize it exactly. And she felt a bit down. It was her first nationals, right? So this is fairly common. A guy from Port Pirie I shot with a few weeks earlier who shot 290s indoors with his compounds 270s. So it's not that you'll always shoot worse at a national championships or under pressure. That's not the case. Sometimes you'll exceed your expectations because you'll be so focused, and normally in the club scene you might be playing around and not focusing. What it's about is about the pressure you put on yourself and how you let that affect you. So for myself, I was crushed. I came in there with high expectations, shooting scores about, in the 280s, constantly in the 280s, mid 280s, and it was just hard for me. I just wasn't flowing. I was trying so hard. I was like, at home, it was just flowing, and I get there and it's hard. It's just hard to get through the clicker. I'm moving around more than I normally do. It was hard. So I shot a 261. I followed up with a 281, which was good. I'm happy with the 281. And then I followed it up with I shot a 283, I shot a 279, I shot a 272. But it's the pressure you feel. Like I shoot at home hundreds of arrows every day. Today I went to pull back a 30-pound compound and it just killed my muscles. Because I work that much harder. I work my body, my pressure I put myself. Today I just tried to shoot then, and it's like I can't shoot because my muscles are so sore. My grip was like that. And I was like, now, but the thing to do is acknowledge it. And you say, well, okay, I practiced for this event and I put in all the time and effort to get to this point. So I got to a point where I'm shooting constant 280, so that's my expectation. However, when it comes to competition, I've never shot really above 270 before at a national tournament. I have at local club tournaments, I've shot mid 280s, right? About the same as I do at home. But then when it comes to the national tournament, the pressure I put myself under, 260. Now, however, 260 for me is kind of okay. That's what I did last year. But for me, it was it didn't make me feel good. I was like, oh, why am I doing this? In fact, that night, I tossed and turned in bed. I was thinking about stuff, and I'm like, why do I put myself through this? And often what you'll see at a nationals, you'll see people go 10, 10, 10, 10, 10, 10. And then they just blow it because the pressure's mounting. But what you've got to do is be able to shoot through this. And the only way you're going to do it is shoot more and more competitions. So you become more familiar, more comfortable, and you don't let the pressure get to you. Easier said than done, but this is why you need to shoot tournaments. And when you think about archery, like why do you train so hard, or why do you shoot recurve, why do you shoot compound? Like, do you do it for enjoyment? And why do you train to try and pick up an extra 5 points? You do it because if I put the hard work in, then I get the result at the end. So with me shooting recurve, I put lots of work in this year, and I mean lots of work. I worked my little tail off. And At the end, I come out with 2 golds at the state level, and I think I'm currently 3rd nationally in the over 50s. In the open recurve, I think I'm 15th. That may drop to 16th. It may drop further, I don't know, because there's a couple of people who haven't got scores in yet for some, I assume, some technical reason. But still, overall, it's better than I've ever shot before, and I put lots of work into it. So then next year, hopefully, I'll improve beyond that. That's the aim. Now, I'm just going to make a point of one of the ladies I shot with. She's, I'm going to say mid-70s, and she may only be young 70s, but you get the concept. She was shooting recurve, and she shot 500 points. She shot 500, and how she shoot 500 out of 300 because it's out of 600. She shot 500 points, 499 points. So the national record for her was 500. She shot 499. So she won the gold for the women's recurve over 70 years of age, and she was 1 point off the national championships. And that's awesome that she's there doing it, and she shoots in all the tournaments. She shoots all the time. She's got a farm, and she just enjoys it. So she just enjoys it. She enjoys being there. She likes mixing with the people. It's like a big family to her. In fact, most of her family shoot. The other lady I shot with, Shirley, she's been working in the shop, and I met her, I'm going to say 6 years ago, and she's now president of the club here, and she's such a force. And when I say a force, such a personality, a driver of archery, getting people into the sport, encouraging them to do stuff. And it's so good to see the person come into the sport, and then so much positive energy she puts into it and herself. And I've seen her go from, and I'm going to say from 250s, from shooting indoors 250s, and I know it was much lower than that when she started, but 250s, then 260s and 270s, then 280s over a 6-year span. And I'm going to say, and then she was shooting there, and it's like XXX, and halfway through I'm like, she's going to shoot a high 290 here. Like, this is going to be a 297. Her best is 291. And then she shot them all in the red. Came back next end, she put them all back in the gold. And she finished with one of her better scores and won the national championship for her age group. But like, what an effort over 6 years to go from there to there. And I think she won state ladies open compound as well. But to go from there to there over 6 years, to build it up every year, and she shoots all the tournaments, and she's just relaxed, and she obviously feels pressure like the rest of us, but it's like to build it up, and it's just so good to witness and see people doing well. And some people go there and they make it look easy, and they shoot their 600 and they're like, yeah, well, whatever. It's like, doesn't matter. I do this all the time. Well, some people win the gold all the time, and compound and recurve. Well done, Alex, in Melbourne, who's an amazing archer. I have no idea how he wins compound and recurve. But it's like so much effort he must put in. Like, it's just, to us mere mortals, I know what it takes for me to get to 280 and how much work I've put in, and for him to get to the other spot, it's just like amazing. The amount of sacrifice I put in to get to my level, and he's a level ahead. It's like just amazing. But so the reason why you want to do this, the reason why you want to get to a championships, it's not about being like, I don't shoot championships. I have all these people come in my shop. I don't want to, I just shoot at the club. And they shoot every day. Get in there and do this stuff, put yourself under the pressure, and then come back the following year and go, well, last year I shot a 270, a 250, a 240, a 230, and try and shoot better, because you're shooting every day. This is your sport. This is what you're doing. And you want to get better. And it doesn't matter how old you are. It doesn't matter if you're 75 or 80. Doesn't matter. Get in there, and next year your score will be higher if you put the work in. If you don't, if you just shoot once a week, or you're putting in a half-assed effort, well, your scores will probably be less, and I'm saying there's probably not much point in going to a nationals, unless you want to go there and sort of see everyone, which I absolutely enjoy. I love seeing the judges all the time. in my home state, and when I say my home state, I'm in South Australia, in my home state in ACT, where I was for 20 years, like all the judges there I've known for 20 odd years, it's just amazing for me to see the same people there putting the time into the sport. So, and it's a very good thing to sort of see it over a time span. So it's good to see all the archers coming back each year and trying their best and going through all the pressures of a nationals, the pressures they put on themselves, the timing, the whole. And yes, it's 2 days, and I'd rather be at home watching TV, watching a movie, maybe you'd say. But you know what? It's hard. It's hard, and sometimes hard work pays off. And I'm not even talking about getting the gold medal, because that's not what it's about. It's about the work you put in, and you go, I'm happy it's over, and my muscles tell me that I put in so much work. They tell me that I really worked hard that weekend because I can barely move my arms right now. So, and I do take lots of vitamins and supplements to try and stop these pains occurring in my muscles. But just the amount of effort, it's just, you know, if you can, like I fully suggest to people, like especially if you shoot all the time, get in and go and shoot some tournaments, shoot some maybe littler tournaments, some smaller tournaments, so it's not such a big deal to you, and then you work up and you shoot the nationals. It's once a year, it's like I paid $57 to enter the event in one class and $57 for the other. You know, go there, do this, and then come back next year and remember how it felt. Remember the feeling. Remember the pressure you feel. Remember that you're like, geez, I better don't want to eat too much because I'm going to upset my stomach. Remember how it felt. And that means you've got to train harder. So if you want to shoot a 290, make sure you're shooting 295s because it's going to be that much harder. And hopefully eventually it'll all be simple and you won't even appreciate it because it'll just be like, this is what I do. But yeah, so that's my summary of the Indoor Nationals. It's quite amazing to me. Always has been amazing. Even when I was the state manager of a junior team I took away, you know, some of the kids were in tears when they didn't meet their expectations. And you have to console them and they're like in tears. They wanted to shoot better and it's like, you know, it's like, it's okay. It doesn't matter that you missed the target. Just go and shoot a good arrow. That's what you have to tell yourself. You have to get back up and the last arrow has to be a good arrow. And the same thing applies in life. You have to get up, you have to put the hard work in and go and do it. And when you're struggling, it doesn't mean you stop. It just means you've got to get in there and do more work. So I'm Stephen Hand from Archery Supplies. Hopefully the coverage of my experience of the Nationals and what I feel encourages you to go and try the events. And like I said, you might not enjoy it. And that's just part of it. It doesn't mean you go and do stuff you don't enjoy. It means it's hard and it gets easier and then you'll appreciate it. And if you track yourself over time, you go, do you know what? That pays off. I'm glad I did that as opposed to stay home and watch a movie that I wouldn't remember in a week's time, where I will remember that event in 2, 5 years, 10 years time. So anyway, I'm Stephen Hand from Archery Supplies. Thanks for watching. Bye.